Hey everybody, welcome to my next episode on Charmila Talkies. Today I will be talking to Sanjay Singh, who is the head of DevOps, IT and SecOps and SRE with Games24x7. He's been in the IT industry for almost 20 plus years and has been receiving a few awards depending on his work and the way he's kind of driven things in the company where he's led to, both technical and financial saving as such. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Sanjay. Very good evening.
Hi, Sharmila. Good evening.
How are you? Thank you so much for taking time on a Sunday evening, especially during the weekend. I know you have a very busy schedule, especially in the last couple of weeks. You've been super busy about so many things that's happening around. So thank you so much for taking this time and, saying that you're ready to do the talk show.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much for arranging this.
Perfect. Thank you, Sanjay. So I don't know if you're actually, how this kind of works. So basically, we could, you've been around for so long in the industry, IT industry. So this talk is going to be about, some of the learnings that we could pick up from your experience in the IT industry that probably, me and others could actually take lessons from and implement it in our own, career lives. So maybe if you could start with a quick introduction about yourself, we can get started with that.
Sure. So my name is Sanjay Singh. I work for a company called Games24x7, and I primarily handle DevOps, SRE, IT operations, and then InfoSec, right?
Okay.
Now, all these areas are pretty challenging, right? I mean, you always have something or the other going on, right? And you're always in kind of firefighting mode.
Right.
So when I started my career, little over 2 decades ago, right, the world was different, right? I mean, when I started, I was the Unix system admin those days. And that used to be a kind of cool job because, Unix or Linux was still picking up. And then, in fact, I picked up, a lot of work that I contributed or worked was primarily on the automation side.
Okay.
What can be automated, what can be self-serve. So that was my focus when I started, in fact, learning on or started working on Linux. So initial early career, I worked with some of the internet service providers and web hosting companies, and that's where I picked up a lot of these skills, which is definitely helping me in a big way, right? Even today, and it is still relevant, I would say, in large extent. But of course, the technology has transformed, right? I mean, the people at my age, we have seen a huge transformation, right? And how it used to be, back in early 2000 to where it is now, it's completely changed. But I think the fundamental remains same, right? Even today, I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it is today.
Okay. I think it's very interesting to know, Sanjay. I think it's like what you said, right? You've been in the industry for almost more than 2 decades now, right? That's 20 plus years. So when you said even in the beginning, when you started your career, you started thinking about automation. I think that's the mindset of doing something different than following the crowd, right? 20 plus years ago, I don't think automation was a big thing. Things were still being done manually to a large extent. Today, I know everything we talk about is AI and ML and whatnot, right? Technology has come so far. And exactly what you said is, for people from, I don't know if you call that era as such, right? To keep up to the pace of how fast technology is moving and standing out and growing is something that's very, very important. And I think it kind of requires conscious effort to keep yourself updated with the latest technology so that, you're not outdated in the market and you still can grow and be an example. This is like your previous experience plus what's happening in the current industry and how we kind of move forward also, right? That's not an easy thing to cope up with and continue to do that, right? So probably if you could talk a little bit around that area as to how you keep yourself updated. I know you've been getting quite a couple of awards in the last, 6 months or so. You recently got the CXO award as well, right? So how do you kind of maintain that with such a fast moving technology world, given that, you did so openly mention that you started as a system admin, Unix admin, and today you being the head of DevOps for the company. I mean, DevOps, SRE, IT, it's multiple teams that you manage. And like what you mentioned, all of these teams are not something like, you come at 9 and go off at 5, right? These are firefighting teams where you're pretty much sometimes required to be available 24/7, whether it's a Diwali, New Year, Christmas, weekends, right? Sometimes, you have to be available even probably if you're having a vacation. So how did you kind of move this space in your career where you've been consistently, learning and growing, and you continue to do that? If you could shed a little light on that, please.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things, and I would say these are themes maybe, right? I mean, one is the passion, right? I mean, you always think about what can be improved. It's like continuous improvement or continuous learning, right? So that's one area. Secondly, again, trying to find areas which will make you relevant in the current situation. I think these are the two things I would say that has in fact helped me, right? One is that, hey, now the technology has transformed. As I said, the fundamental remains same even today, right? Even those days, like, the ultimate, your ultimate goal is like, how do you keep your customers engaged? How do you keep your customers happy? But it is now, I think, in last 10 years or so, with the newer technology, I would say the life has become easier, right? I mean, how it used to be when I said, I started my career, everything used to be manual in nature, right? And of course, you pick up areas which you want to automate and things like that. But then you didn't have a lot of tools or technologies those days. And now, with the availability of those, the life has become much simpler. I can quote one example. Back in again 2001, when I remember when we were launching something for all of India customers, and then we had a single setup, right? And which was we felt that this may become a single point of failure. And then we were thinking about how do we load balance? What if we have multiple servers and we want to say load balance? There was nothing called load balancer during those days, right? So then we found a way, of course, right? I mean, we struggled, but then you found some kind of workaround to see how it make it work. But now, as I said, you have different types of technologies available and you have multiple options available. So that way, I feel the life has become much simpler and easier because you have multiple options available. But at the same time, as I said, lot to learn, right? Lot to learn from the technology, lot to learn from the industry to make yourself relevant. And this all comes with when you have passion that, hey, let me understand what it is. Let me see how it can be done in a different way or maybe easier way. Yeah. So these are, I think, some of the things I would quote.
True. I think it's like what you mentioned, right? It's your passion that kind of helps you or has helped you go where you are, right? And when you said 2001, there was no concept of load balancer. Today, we have so many options. Right. So this idea of actually going ahead and trying something new when it's not there, and then you see that becomes a norm in like probably 5 years or a decade or so, right? So I know passion is the most important thing that like already you mentioned, and keeping up to it by learning and seeing to it that you are part of the latest technology that's happening. But apart from that, what is it one factor in you that's been driving you to kind of learn and sustain and grow continuously in this field, right? It's I have seen you because we worked a couple of times closely in one of the companies in the past, right? And that's how I know you kind of you're like, okay, yes, it can definitely be done. That confidence and assurance of yes, by this ETA it can be done, instead of how big the problem is or how complicated it is, right? You cannot say that easily until you kind of know, yes, I can do it, depending on whether it's you or your team, whatever that is, right? So maybe if you could talk a little bit around that place, like what is it in you or that you're able to kind of sustain and grow tremendously like this, and keep moving forward. And especially like what I said, managing multiple teams like this, where sometimes there's still some problem with SRE, simultaneously there's something happening in the DevOps area and IT. You cannot, and you're supposed to be managing all the three of them because they are like key for any company to run successfully, in spite of the engineering team being there, the dev team and the product team, right? This is like the base, and we could call it the heartbeat of the company, probably, to be very honest, right? And customer satisfaction, like you said, whether it's 10 years ago, 20 years ago, today or tomorrow, that's the key that's going to keep us driving. So these are the ones that kind of really take care of customers' satisfaction. And you being the head of these teams, right? How do you kind of keep up with all of that?
Yeah, so I think it's nothing again, I think goes back to the same thing, the passion, right? The hunger in you to see how it can be done in a better way or how it can be even possible, make it possible, right? So that's one area. Secondly, I think with a lot of information available in the internet world, right? With, if you just feel that, hey, this is possible, first of all, right? You start from there that this, yes, it is possible. I mean, whatever the requirement is, whatever is the problem statement or the situation is, I feel it is possible. And then, I mean, you explore, even if you do not know the exact answer, whether, how you can do it. you will get some idea at least.
Okay.
And then you build on top of that. I mean, that's kind of my philosophy, and that's how I have been driving, in some of these areas.
Nice. I think this is the first time I'm seeing somebody. I've read this thing, the word impossible, right? If you split it up, it does say I am possible. I'm sure everybody's read it somewhere or the other, right? And this is the first time I'm seeing somebody that I have known and in the IT industry, some, quoting, relating to this. So, okay. So basically it's that confidence or that thing in you which kind of says, okay, whatever complicated the issues or how big the problem is, right, it can be done, and that's how you kind of search or find solutions and do get it going. Would that be precise?
Yeah, I mean, someone else might have faced the similar problem, if not exactly same. So you get some clue, some hint, and that's enough for you to kind of explore, right? And you may find, maybe exact solution, right? Sometimes.
Right. Right. I agree. Totally. Right. I think to go ahead and say, yes, I also have a similar problem and how to kind of go ahead and work on it and find a solution itself is a big thing, right? Because I think sometimes we have this problem of saying, hey, if I go ahead and say, I don't know the solution, what will somebody think, right? I as much as I have known you, I think you're not like that. You're quite open to taking suggestions and giving suggestions and discussing.
Right.
Do you think that's also one of the key factors where we should not shy away from, asking for suggestions and help? Or how do you kind of, in terms of you taking and giving, how do you act on that area?
No, absolutely. I think technology is one area where no one can say that I'm 100%. I have all the answers, right? So you always approach with, as I said, any problem statement that, hey, I may have some clue. I may need some help from someone. So make yourself vulnerable that, hey, this area I have no clue, right? Can you help? Or have you experienced or have you heard about, something like this? And people may give you sometime hint. I mean, again, internet is your friend. You may find a lot of information, right? If nowhere else. But otherwise, as I said, you start with the confidence that, hey, yes, it is possible. And I'll talk to people, and and I'll get more information, or I'll search the internet and I'll find out more. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. I think this thing, I mean, from the people that I have known and I've worked with also, asking people is a thing which a lot of people actually hesitate, right? Thinking what they will assume or what would they think about as such. I think you brought it out very well, saying you will always get help, probably if not an exact situation that somebody else has faced, it's a similar situation, and probably you can pick up hints from that and resolve whatever problems you have and you're facing. So perfect. I mean, that I think is a good learning that we can pick up, saying always there's no harm in asking for help or saying, hey, did you have a similar problem that you have fixed or worked on, right? Perfect. Okay. And Sanjay, recently, like what I just said a couple of minutes ago, you've been receiving quite a few awards in the IT industry by itself, right? I think it was just last week that you received the CXO award as well, right? So if you could, talk about how do you kind of manage all of this, right? There's work, then there's your personal life, then again, you have so many other, your hobbies and stuff like that. I know you're also a people person. You're not like just the techie person as much since I've worked with you, right? And you're also into all of these events. I know last week you also traveled to Bombay for some work and stuff. So how do you kind of juggle between all of these roles and still kind of have this happy smiling face, right? I'm like, so a couple of things and I'm like, oh my God, I'm drained out and I'm like exhausted and I'm like, how do I manage kind of stuff, right? So it's like multiple things that you're doing at a time. So how do you kind of manage all of this and still play a very, balanced role across?
Yeah, I think one is, I think it starts with maybe the planning, right? That, hey, and then maybe stack ranking, what kind of activities that you want to do, right? For example, I generally keep myself busy, during the weekend for something which is little away from work, right? For example, just to let you know, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I have my own solar plant, which I designed several years ago, more than 10 years ago. And
this interesting. Where is this?
In my house, in fact. So daytime, I don't have any dependency on power supply. And this, as I said, this was designed by me, I think roughly 10 years ago. And this is still working perfectly fine. So
that's pretty interesting. I really didn't know about this part of it. Okay, so you just don't use electricity, I mean, the regular
daytime,
at all?
Yeah, correct. Wow. I mean, course, for heavy appliances, yes, but otherwise, for regular, consumption, I don't have any dependency on Viscom.
Wow,
So
that's very
as I said,
interesting.
yeah, so I think one is, I would say the passion. Secondly, I mean, you may have, when you grow in your career ladder, right? I mean, you have
Right.
plenty of to be taken care of, right?
Absolutely.
You stack rank it that, hey, what is the most critical, what is the most important? And then
Mm-hmm.
based on that, you kind of little bit prioritization and the planning. I think that helps in a big way. So typically, even, if I have something, something to be taken care of on the personal side, I generally add that into the calendar. That way I know that, okay, this time is
This
blocked for
needs
me,
to be
right?
done.
For this. That helps.
Amazing. Wow. Okay. I mean, this the whole solar plant is like, I was definitely not aware of that. Probably I'll catch you offline on that to know further
Yeah.
about it. But that's very interesting and nice. I mean, with so much of, whatever nature things and all of that stuff that we are kind of utilizing these resources, and actually, I think to utilize what's available and kind of generate power is, I know that people are working in like, I don't know about individuals as such, but now I can say, yes, I do know a person who's doing this, right? So thanks for that information, right?
Yeah.
So Sanjay, one last question is, what is, with so much of experience that you have in the multiple roles and things, especially that you're also doing personal stuff, I mean, even like the solar plant and so on, right? What is one major learning or suggestion to continue with career life that you would, what do you say, stress upon or pay importance to, right? So something, what is maybe like I always use this word, right? So the secret in the ingredient from your career life that you would like to share for the others, right? And if you've had any big challenges, how do you kind of have overcome that and reach to where you are today? If you could talk
Yeah.
about that, please.
Yeah. So I think to keep yourself motivated and engaged, I feel that and even to make yourself relevant and keep growing, right? I feel that, and this is what I have experienced. I'm just talking from my personal experience point of
Absolutely.
view. Wherever I went, wherever I worked, I
Right.
always felt that there is some unique problem statement for, wherever you go, right?
Right.
Just pick that up and see how you can, contribute or make things better, right? So
Okay.
that's have been my kind of focus area. And every company I've worked with, the problem statements have been different.
Absolutely.
Of course, there are some learnings, of course, that you can apply in other places also, but the problem statements are different.
Okay.
Again, for wherever you go, it's like how quickly can you pick that up? How quickly can you identify what is the problem statement where I can make life simpler or easier, right? So just to let you know, here when I joined, in my current company, and in fact, that was the main reason why I got awarded recently. Notice that our cloud cost was hitting the roof, right? So, we worked together, of course, as a team, and then we picked up areas where we can make some impact, right?
Okay.
And we made really significant progress. In fact, we were able to reduce the cloud cost by roughly 40-50% in just about 3-4 months, right?
Wow.
Without impacting anything as such.
In
No
just a
noise.
quarter? That's
Yes.
amazing. Brilliant. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one area. Second, I think you asked about the challenge, right? I think one challenge, especially when you move into the management or the leadership role, is see, working as an individual contributor, you know what you need to contribute, right? And then you deliver, and then you're done with it. But when you move into management or the leadership role, it's like getting things done by someone else, right? So keeping people engaged and making sure that, hey, they're not finding it very, very monotonous, right? Because if it is, they're doing the same thing again and again, it becomes, monotonous over a period. So again, I think always into discovery mode, what can be improved, right? And then challenging your team and, of course, nudging them or giving them all the support. But defining that problem statement that, hey, here are the problem areas, right? Of course, working with the team. And then making sure that people are rotated and, they're always learning, or you give them kind of learning opportunity by rotating their kind of responsibility often, right? I mean, if you keep it like, same for over a year, for example, people will find it, that, hey, it is monotonous and maybe time for me to move on, find a better place somewhere else. But if you keep that rotation, I mean, that has worked for me.
Okay.
I mean, then most of the people, right, they may feel that, hey, there is no reason why I should move out because I'm getting that opportunity to learn something new within the organization. So, I mean, that has helped me. Again, every person may have different way of approaching, but as I said, this is something which has worked for me.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for this. Right. I think I really have had key takeaways from this. I think the first one that you actually said was, you know, the passion that you have. The next thing is amazing, you know, the fact that, you know, saying that whenever there is a problem, everything is possible. Right. There's definitely a possibility that nothing is impossible. Right. And discussing the problems to identify if people have had similar issues at their end and what kind of solutions they've had, and probably picking it up from there, taking hints from there, and then developing your own solutions depending on your problems. And I think you also stressed upon, you know, how to say, identify the problem statement in your respective company or organization and work on that. And identifying it sooner is also key. Right. I think that's, and of course, finally, I always knew you were a people person. So, you know, to kind of keep them engaged so that it is not monotonous is like great. Amazing, Sanjay. I think definitely people are going to find this useful and have some key takeaways from this conversation. So, and thank you so much for taking this time, especially on a Sunday evening, like I mentioned in the beginning of the call. And congratulations for all the awards and good luck with many more to receive in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.